The fall of the Berlin Wall on November 9, 1989, wasn't just a historical event. It was a seismic shift that reverberated across the globe. It marked the end of an era defined by division and ideological conflict. It was more than the destruction of concrete. It represented the shattering of a long-held status quo, a physical manifestation of the Cold War's deep-seated tensions. It was the collapse of an era, a symbolic and very real end to decades of separation, oppression, and the ever-present threat of global conflict. The world held its breath as the impossible became reality. It was the birth of new hope, a beacon of light shining through the darkness of the Cold War, promising a future of unity and freedom. For nearly 30 years, the Berlin Wall had stood as an unyielding barrier, a stark reminder of the world's division. The wall stood as a symbol of division, not just of a city, but of ideologies, families, and the very fabric of human connection. It represented oppression, the stifling of freedom, and the suppression of individual expression under a totalitarian regime. It embodied the Cold War's harshest realities, a physical manifestation of the ideological battle that gripped the world in fear and uncertainty. Its sudden collapse reshaped Europe, redrawing political boundaries and ushering in an era of unprecedented change and transformation. This pivotal moment marked the decline of Soviet influence, signaling the beginning of the end for the communist bloc and its grip on Eastern Europe. And it ignited a wave of change across the world, inspiring movements for democracy and freedom in countries yearning for liberation. The world watched in awe as jubilant crowds danced atop the wall, celebrating the newfound freedom and the promise of a brighter future. Families, separated for decades, reunited in tearful embraces, their lives forever changed by this momentous occasion. And a city long divided came together in celebration, bridging the gap between East and West in a powerful display of unity and hope. The wall's fall was a victory for ordinary citizens who demanded change, a testament to the power of collective action and the unwavering pursuit of freedom. It was a powerful demonstration, proving the power of peaceful protest and unity in the face of oppression, inspiring generations to come. To truly understand this pivotal moment in history, we must delve deeper into the events that led to its construction and eventual demise. We must look back at the wall's origins, the political climate, the social pressures, and the desperate measures taken to maintain control. It was a desperate attempt by East Germany, facing a mass exodus of its citizens, to stem the tide and preserve its communist regime. The wall was erected to halt the exodus of its people, a desperate measure to prevent the collapse of the East German state. It was a structure that tore through families and society, leaving a lasting scar on the hearts and minds of those who lived in its shadow. The story of its demise is a testament to the resilience and hope of those who refused to be silenced, who dared to dream of a future free from oppression. It is a story of those who lived in its shadow, enduring hardship and separation, yet never losing sight of their yearning for freedom. Their yearning for freedom guiding them, fueling their determination to overcome the seemingly insurmountable barrier that divided them. And ultimately, it was their unwavering spirit that empowered them to tear it down, piece by piece, brick by brick, until the wall was no more. Life in divided Berlin was a daily struggle, a constant negotiation of the absurdities and cruelties imposed by the wall. The city, once a vibrant hub of culture and commerce, was now cleaved in two, its heart forcibly separated. This existence unfolded under the wall's oppressive presence. It was a physical manifestation of ideological division, a stark and brutal symbol of the Cold War's impact on individual lives. For East Berliners, the wall was a constant reminder of confinement, a suffocating barrier that dictated their movements, their opportunities, and even their thoughts. It loomed large in their daily lives, a grey and unforgiving presence. Guard towers, death strips, and the ever-present threat of violence hung heavy in the air, a chilling reminder of the lengths the regime would go to maintain its control. This threat was especially acute for those who tried to escape. The desire for freedom was a dangerous aspiration, met with brutal force. Families were split, torn apart by the arbitrary line drawn through their city and their lives. Communication was restricted, making it difficult, and often dangerous, to maintain contact with loved ones on the other side. And trust eroded under the watchful eyes of the Stasi, creating an atmosphere of suspicion and paranoia. East Germany's secret police. Their pervasive presence instilled fear and stifled dissent. In West Berlin, life was freer, a stark contrast to the oppressive atmosphere of the East. But it was still marked by isolation, an island of democracy surrounded by a sea of communist control. The wall, a grim scar through the city, a constant reminder of division and loss. East Germans lived with constant surveillance, their lives meticulously monitored by the state, their every move potentially reported by neighbors, creating a climate of fear and distrust. Or colleagues. Even the workplace was not immune to the reach of the Stasi. Despite the regime's efforts to control information and suppress dissent, Western media signals slipped through, offering a window to the outside world. These broadcasts offered glimpses of a different life, a world of freedom and opportunity, and fueling discontent, nurturing a yearning for change among the East German population. The wall was more than a barrier. It was a symbol of oppression, a concrete representation of the ideological divide that separated East and West. It was a daily affront to dignity and freedom, a constant reminder of the limitations imposed on their lives. This simmering desire for connection and liberty, this deep-seated yearning for a better future, would eventually become unstoppable, leading to the dramatic events that would ultimately bring the wall crashing down. By the 1980s, cracks appeared in the Eastern Bloc as Gorbachev's reforms inspired hope for change. In East Germany, small opposition groups, often protected by the Protestant Church, began to challenge the regime. Weekly peace prayers in Leipzig grew into mass demonstrations, with crowds chanting, "We are the people." The courage of these protesters, facing the threat of violence, inspired thousands more to join. The East German government, isolated and facing economic crisis, struggled to contain the growing movement. The sight of citizens escaping through Hungary and Czechoslovakia fueled demands for freedom of travel and political reform. The regime faced a choice: concede or risk a violent crackdown. The momentum for change was now unstoppable, driven by the simple desire to be free. The fall of the Berlin Wall on November 9, 1989, marked a pivotal moment in history, a turning point that few could have predicted. It was a night that redefined Europe and reshaped the global political landscape. The breaching of this concrete barrier was triggered by a potent mix of sustained public pressure, fueled by years of discontent and a yearning for freedom. Adding to the volatile situation was palpable government confusion within East Germany, a sense of uncertainty that permeated the highest levels of power, and, perhaps most unexpectedly, a fateful press conference that would inadvertently set the course for the wall's demise. East German officials, growing increasingly desperate to quell the rising tide of unrest and maintain control, sought a solution. They hastily crafted and announced new travel regulations, intended to be implemented gradually and in a controlled manner. But the message was tragically miscommunicated, leading to widespread misunderstanding and immediate action. It all unfolded during a seemingly ordinary press conference, where Politburo member Günter Schabowski, a key figure in the East German government, took center stage. He was, however, noticeably unclear on the specific details of the new regulations, adding to the confusion. In a moment that would alter history, he told reporters that the new travel rules were effective immediately without delay. The news, amplified by the media, spread rapidly like wildfire throughout the city, and within hours thousands of eager East Berliners, believing the border was open, rushed towards the checkpoints, fervently demanding passage to the other side. The border guards, caught completely off guard, were confused and lacked clear instructions on how to handle the unprecedented situation. They found themselves facing swelling crowds of determined citizens who were united in their desire and chanting, "Open the gate." The tension reached its peak at Bornholmer Strasse, where Lieutenant Colonel Harold Jäger, a man who would become a symbol of that night, fearing potential chaos and escalating violence, made the courageous and historic decision to open the barriers. What began as a mere trickle of people quickly transformed into an unstoppable flood, as East and West Berliners, separated for so long, embraced each other with tears of joy and overwhelming emotion, celebrated this newfound freedom, and crossed freely between East and West for the first time in decades, reuniting families and friends. The Berlin Wall, once an imposing symbol of oppression and division, was breached not through violent force or military might, but by the unwavering will of the people and a remarkable bureaucratic slip-up that changed the course of history. The entire city erupted in an outpouring of uncontainable joy and celebration, transforming the impossible into a suddenly tangible reality. The entire world watched with bated breath as history underwent a profound transformation in a single unforgettable night. In the days that followed, Berlin was transformed by scenes of joy and reunion. East Berliners poured into the West, greeted by cheers, flowers, and open arms. Families and friends, separated for decades, were finally reunited. The city became a festival of liberation, with strangers hugging and laughter echoing through once divided streets. Ordinary citizens began chipping away at the wall, each fragment a symbol of reclaimed freedom. Iconic images of people dancing atop the wall at the Brandenburg Gate captured the spirit of unity. Berlin shifted from a city of division to one of hope as thoughts turned to reunification. The wall's fall was not just the end of a barrier, but the beginning of a new chapter for Germany. Decades later, the Berlin Wall's legacy endures as both a warning and an inspiration. Remnants like the East Side Gallery and Checkpoint Charlie serve as powerful reminders of division and the struggle for freedom. The wall's remains symbolize both the pain of separation and the triumph of peaceful revolution. Visiting these sites invites reflection on the value of democracy and the dangers of division. The wall's story teaches us about resilience and the power of non-violent protest and the courage to demand change. It warns against ideological extremism and the human cost of building barriers. Above all, it highlights the enduring hope that fueled resistance and ultimately brought the wall down. The wall's legacy urges us to build a more open, unified future. The fall of the Berlin Wall stands as a timeless message of hope and the power of collective action. Ordinary people, united in courage, dismantled not just a wall, but decades of fear and division. Reunification was challenging, but the spirit of that night propelled Germany forward. The wall's story reminds us that unity is built through understanding, reconciliation, and shared purpose. Berlin today is a vibrant symbol of what's possible when barriers fall. The wall's legacy inspires those still fighting for freedom and justice around the world. It's a beacon for all who seek to replace walls with bridges and conflict with dialogue. The journey from division to unity is a universal story, one of hope, resilience, and the unbreakable human spirit.